Is Alexis Sanchez going to go down as the worst signing for Manchester United, I don't know, in Premier League history, in history? Mark Ogden seemed to think so in the last 30 years at least.
Oggy gave him a good battering yesterday.
Yeah.
Worst in 30 years. Anybody that wears gloves when the weather's nice and short sleeves he's got to be up there, isn't he? Just for that. Look, there's been people forget there's been lots of bad signings at all different clubs, and even when Sir Alex was there, not every signing worked. But I think if we preface this with, is he the worst player to play for United in terms of the performances? No, probably not, even though he's not. But if you package that with his salary, then you can make an argument to say it's been the biggest disaster. Because I'm guessing, say we say $500,000 a week. They also caused problems for the other players like De Gea and one or two others. They said, well, you're paying this guy, and you don't want to pay me, and he would even got a game for the reserves at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, there's a fair chance to say it's been one of the biggest disasters if you balance the performances in the field and the financials.
One hand is all you really need to count his goals, all of that stuff. Let's take a look at some of those names.
I can't remember anything he's done at Man United.
No, nothing positive at least. Well, of course, Angel Di Maria was a nightmare signing, but obviously went on to prove his calibre elsewhere.
Well, you say that. I mean, he's a good player, but he wanted the easy route out. He wanted to beat Real Madrid, where they dominated games. He wanted to beat PSG, where they dominated games. When he came into United, it is a club, and still is, that needs key players to roll their sleeves up and prove their worth, and he couldn't wait to get out. Jemba was just a nightmare. For whatever reason, Veron, it didn't quite fit with Sir Alex at that time, but he's a quality player.
Paid huge money for him.
Paid a lot of money for him at the time, but he's a quality player. Cleberson, I can't remember too much. I definitely remember Taibbi, and the only incident I remember is when he bent down to pick the ball up, and the second time he bent down, he's picking it out the back of the net. And I think the moment it went over the line, even without the goal line technology that we have today, Ferguson had already sold him.
Do you remember who scored? The Letizia.
Was it Matt Letizia?
I think it was.
But as soon as that ball crawled over, it wasn't an inch over the line, and he'd been like, right, sold, gone. It was almost like an auction.
But that's the point, isn't it? Ferguson was ruthless. Even when players were in form and had been star performers for him, he was able to turn them out and get deals done. He's obviously just been clogging up the payroll, and that's been part of the problem.
But he still is clogging up the payroll, because Inter Milan are not paying all his wages, I'll guarantee you that. So whilst the blow has softened for United somewhat, it's not all. I mean, I don't know, we don't have the figures, but say for example they're paying half. It might be more, it might be less. United are still shouldering a couple of £100,000 a week. Think about that for a player who's not doing the business for you, even though he wasn't doing. You can't even bring him off the bench to change a game, yet you're still paying him fortunes. For whatever reason, he has been an unmitigating disaster, and you would find it hard to make an argument he's not been, at least in my opinion, one of the worst.
Okay, so I just want to pick up on something you said there about Di Maria as well, because he falls into that category, doesn't he? Star name, come in, big money, no big fee on him, but obviously the wages account for most of that. It's different from some of those other signings. Taibbi was just a disaster, couldn't live up to it.
I don't think it's the fact that he's been desperate to leave. I think it's just been the fact that it's just not happened for him, and the club want him out. I think the club, had Di Maria shown a better attitude, the club would potentially, I think, have tried to get a tune out of him. But he didn't want to give that tune, he didn't want to play the tune, he wanted out. I think from his perspective, he's come in, he looks as if he looks as if a move to Man United is too big for him. Which sounds a bit strange, having played at the level he has with Chile and all the clubs. He's Barcelona, and then at Arsenal and the other club, whatever other clubs he's been at, I can't remember. And he comes into United, and he's on this big expectation and big money. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't see him fitting in the United side. Say to me, where's his best possession in the Man United side? I don't know. Where's his best possession in the Inter Milan side? I don't know.
There have been very few hits for Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson left. What do you put that down to? It can't simply be that Ferguson was the only Messiah, or the Messiah, obviously, that he had so much success. Is it the fact that none of those managers have been able to put their stamp on the club, or their judgment just isn't up to Sir Alex's?
Well, his rate of better players was just better. The bad ones were less. Mourinho would probably tell you, I got X, Y, and Z, but I wanted A, B, and C. And then Mr. Woodward and the board were like, dithering, and then we didn't get it, so we went down a different route. So I think a little bit of everything in there, and the quality of player they've been able to bring in clearly is not up to the standard that they need to get back to the top of the pile.
But really, the emphasis would be on the board for you?
Well, the board, assess the strategy, the board sign off on the money, and the board appoint the manager. Apart from that, I don't see why I could point fingers at the board.
Everything but the kitchen sink. So Alexis Sanchez is going to ply his trade once again in Serie A. He was last there in 2010-11 for Udinese. Now expectations will be on him to try and support Romelu Lukaku. He's tried to do that before, I think.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.